Look at the top of your class right now. The girls are probably winning. Straight A's, honor rolls, academic prizes. They dominate the scoreboard. Statistically, women dominate classroom scores. So here is the question. Why do men still hold the overwhelming majority of Nobel Prizes? Fortune 500 CEO seats in history, as most celebrated intellectual achievements, trend heavily male. Someone is lying to you, and it might be the data itself. Here is what most people quietly believe. They watch a girl ace every exam for 12 years, then see famous scientists trend heavily male. They make a choice. Either women are smarter and society suppresses them, or men are smarter, and school has not caught on yet. It is a satisfying narrative, clean, simple, politically convenient. The problem is both versions are wrong, not partially, structurally wrong. They are asking the question incorrectly from the very first word. The question was never who is smarter. That framing is the real mistake. That framing assumes intelligence is a single number, like a credit score, stamped on your forehead at birth. Your brain is not that. Your brain is more like a city, a sprawling, chaotic, glittering metropolis with financial districts, art quarters, and unmapped underground tunnels. When you measure a city, you do not just count the buildings. You ask which neighborhoods are thriving and which ones are still under construction. So researchers stopped asking who is smarter and started asking something far more interesting. Where exactly does the gap appear, and where does it disappear? Here is what decades of cognitive science actually found. In overall general intelligence, men and women score essentially the same. Completely dead even. If you handed 1,000 men and 1,000 women the same IQ test, the distributions would overlap almost perfectly. The average score, identical. The question was settled before it ever really began. But that is where the boring part ends. Now things start getting genuinely interesting and complicated. Drill deeper and the city starts showing you its neighborhoods. Language acquisition. Girls begin speaking earlier than boys, sometimes by several months. Between ages 1 and 5, girls construct longer sentences, deploy wider vocabularies, and communicate with a fluency that makes male peers sound still loading. This verbal head start carries forward through elementary school, which explains a lot about those classroom report cards that everyone keeps pointing at. But here is the twist. Zoom in even further, and the female language advantage starts to fragment. Verbal memory. Men hold their own just fine. Reading comprehension. Roughly equal. And in verbal reasoning, the ability to construct and dismantle logical arguments using language, men actually edge ahead. So even the category where women traditionally win is more complicated than a bumper sticker can contain. The city has different skylines on different blocks. Now flip to the other side of the city. Spatial cognition, the ability to rotate objects mentally and manipulate three-dimensional shapes in your head. Here, men hold a measurable statistical advantage, one that grows more pronounced with age. By around 18, the gap hits its peak performance level. Male spatial processing tends to be faster, more precise, and more strategically efficient. Men navigate by building internal maps using cardinal directions and distances. They score higher on spatial rotation tasks, the kind where you look at a twisted shape and mentally flip it to match a target. But that spatial rotation advantage shrinks as men age. It does not stay. The gap closes. It simply does not last. In spatial development trends and assembling complex shapes mentally, women perform better. The city has different skylines depending on which block you stand on. So here is the answer. Neither sex is smarter. What exists is a mosaic of cognitive strengths that vary by domain and shift with age. These strengths overlap so dramatically that any individual, any single human being, cannot be predicted from group statistics alone. Groups are not people. The girl who cannot navigate without her phone might have a verbal reasoning score that would make a linguist weep with admiration and professional jealousy. The boy who rotates 3D objects effortlessly in his sleep might struggle to remember a conversation from this morning. We are all full of surprises. Think about that next time you glance at a classroom leaderboard. You are not looking at proof one gender owns intelligence. You are looking at one narrow slice of one cognitive type in one developmental window, measured one specific way. Nothing more than that. The report card does not show you the whole city. It shows one street on one Tuesday afternoon in good weather. Nothing more. The rest of the city is enormous, unmapped, and equal in ways data has not learned to count. It belongs to every one of us.